I think we all would agree it's something we want to see. We want to help ignite young people who have a little interest and say, you know what, this is the place to go.
This is the Box Office Podcast. I'm Daniel Loria, the editorial director of Box Office Pro, the pulse of theatrical exhibition. And in this week's episode, we will be previewing the opening weekend of Universal Pictures' Wicked for Good, which we are expecting to hit the biggest opening weekend of 2025. We have our fingers crossed for that. And after that, we are speaking with Greg Heckmann, Director of Marketing over at Maya Cinemas, in an interview conducted by our colleague, Rebecca Pahle. And joining us in our news panel this week are our co-hosts and colleagues, Rebecca Pahle and Chad Kennerk. Guys, welcome back. Rebecca, you've got the feature this week with Greg from Maya. What's your interview about?
So it's this really neat initiative that they just launched under their Maya Community Foundation, which does, nonprofit stuff with the various communities in which Maya Cinema operates. Like historically, obviously, as you know, Daniel, they were kind of founded to help serve underserved, under-screen communities. And this is about something kind of more industry specific that the Maya Community Foundation is doing, helping tap into the enthusiasm in some of their theater level employees. They were able to send two of their cinema employees to the Cinema United Summit in Los Angeles last month. Just a really, a nice chat about industry initiatives and the need to kind of foster the professional growth of the younger generation.
Always good to hear when operators in this industry invest in their young employees, invest in the future, because how many times do we see it? Veteran employees becoming executives and moving up the ranks here in exhibition. So I love this initiative from Maya. We're going to be hearing that in the second half of this episode. But let's start the way we usually do with what we saw last weekend. I saw a Netflix movie that you guys already saw, Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. Didn't work for me. How can I say this? The last hour worked very well for me. I think everything before that I struggled to get through, but there was an interview that I saw from Oscar Isaac where I learned two things during this press junket interview he did. One, I've actually listened to his ska band from Miami in the late 90s. I didn't know this. So I went to high school.
I went through
Miami.
A ska phase. What was the ska band?
You don't know about this. You don't know about the Oscar Isaac ska band.
No.
See, I knew about the Oscar Isaac ska band before I knew Oscar Isaac was in that ska band.
Oh, shoot.
That's how legit I am in the Miami ska scene.
The Miami ska scene.
Don't get me started. Embarrassing. It's not a phase, Mom. Not a phase. So back in like the late 90s, Oscar Isaac, before Juilliard, before becoming this like celebrated actor, was living in Miami, Florida, and actually went to one of the high schools that's a rival to my high school in like the suburbs of Miami. And he was in a ska band called the Blinking Underdogs. I knew about this band. I listened to several of his songs in those like CD mixtapes you would burn a downloaded copy of over and over again.
The Sharpie to read the labels.
Yes.
And
like a 6th generation copy of a bad digital track I have somewhere. So yeah, I had listened to, his songs before I ever knew he was an actor. So that was the first exciting thing I learned about Oscar Isaac. The second thing I learned, and made me appreciate the first half of the film more because I did struggle with that half, is Guillermo del Toro gave him an instruction that it was like, hey, play this like a telenovela. Play this like a Mexican telenovela. This is melodramatic. This is operatic. Turn it up to 11. The sets are going to be there. The performances,
the costumes are definitely there.
And that helped me with the movie more. Now that there are aspects of the movie that I'm still not, fully behind, but it looks gorgeous. And it's a crime that I had to watch it on TV because I waited, an extra week to try to see it out in theaters. I think it'll play a role in the awards conversation. Chad, what did you think of Jacob Elordi?
I thought he was great. That's a tough role for anyone to step into, and I think he made it his own.
Every time I've seen the trailer for The Bride, which has kind of Christian Bale doing a Frankenstein thing, that looks more off to me than
Yeah.
You don't want to. It can be I don't want to say comedic, but it can be goofy, especially if you are doing like the heightened telenovela stuff. If the visual spectacle isn't there to match it,
You have to commit to the
Yeah.
small screen stuff in the big screen scope the way Del Toro did it. So he did it his own. I just didn't happen to be on board for his own. Maybe part of that is Poor Things came out like a couple of years back, and there's just no beating that story. I feel I saw a more interesting version of that story that resonates with my own interests a lot more, with maybe the narrative questions I have for the concept. Those were answered by Yorgos Lanthimos 2 years ago. So to see this, yes, it's different. Yes, I understand it's very faithful. It looks gorgeous. Not the movie for me, which is fine. I think lots of folks enjoyed it. We had a number of other releases come out this week. Rebecca, what did you check out in theaters?
So I caught The Running Man, which I know you and Daniel, you and Chad had already seen. Didn't love it. I'm a fan of the Schwarzenegger movie and of the original novella. I think it worked for me better than maybe it worked for you, but it has that thing that I love/hate from old movies where it's based on a book and you get to like the last 90 seconds of the movie. And it's like, oh no, everything worked out okay and it's fine now. You're like, in the book material, the main character died. Everything was awful.
It's a type of movie that you watch maybe 40 minutes of throughout the year at exhibition conventions, and it's like the best 40 minutes you'll see all year.
Oh, the Michael Cera stuff was great.
Footage.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's a very good movie that you can clip on social media. Does it work as a coherent whole? I think it falls short a little bit. And the box office for the film also falling short with a $17 million opening weekend, on the lower half of our range for a number 2 finish. Number 1 over the weekend, going to Ruben Fleischer's Now You See Me, Now You Don't, or Now You Three Me, as our colleague Max Avery started calling it internally here.
Yep. That in Tutopia.
Tutopia, that's another good one. Yeah, I'm liking these. Anyway, this Now You See Me threequel doing very, very well at the box office, coming in at the higher end of our forecasting panel's range, opening to $21.3 million. A first place finish, a solid debut for a Lionsgate title. Chad, you interviewed the director and caught up with the movie for our last print issue. What are your thoughts on this third part of the franchise?
It's really fun. I think this franchise tends to be crowd pleasers, and it definitely has that kind of vibe throughout. It's got enough twists and turns, I think, to keep you engaged to the end, even though ultimately, the bad guy's not going to win and that the magicians are going to succeed. Spoilers there.
Solid mid-budget programmer. Like we need the stuff we need more of.
Great popcorn movie. Ruben Fleischer was a big fan of the first two and obviously worked with Woody Harrelson and Jesse Eisenberg significantly throughout his career. So it kind of reteamed all of them. And I think they were just having fun making it. And that reads when you watch the film.
It's those movies that we always ask for more of, movies that aren't designed to make $200 million and that maybe have a little bit more of a commercial ambition than a specialty or independent film does. So yeah, a $20 million opening weekend. If we get somewhere around the $70 million domestic run for something like that, we'll be very happy. We were hoping that Running Man could open somewhere along those lines as well. So together, Running Man and Now You See Me, Now You Don't could more or less combine to what we had from Gladiator 2 last year, for example.
Not bad.
Not bad. Falling short a little bit, but under the same metric of comparing this year to last, you've got Predator Badlands, floating out there, even though it had a big steep in week 2, one that we knew was coming. But Predator Badlands is more or less performing along the lines that Red One did last year. And yeah, you have these two movies, Running Man and Now You See Me 3, coming up a little bit below par with where Gladiator 2 was, but this is where things are going to end up back in the black. Wicked for good, guys. Leaving Wicked Part 1 in the dust. I mean, the Wicked Part 1 opening weekend, which was great, by the way, it opened to $112.5 million on the same weekend last year. This one is going to significantly improve on those numbers. Our tracking is admittedly all over the place. We have to start with that caveat. We've got a baseline here of $135 million. If you guys want to start bottom up, we're starting at 135 baseline. That's more or less what I think the industry is going to walk away from this opening weekend expecting, happy with. Comes in a couple million short. Okay, fine. It's still an improvement over the first, but 135 is where everybody is focusing in our forecasting panel as this is what it's building up to. Now, how high does it fly beyond that? And that's the big question mark. And we've got numbers all over the place because this can seriously overperform. We've seen some pre-sale figures that are frankly astonishing. Chad, we got a press release from View out in the UK saying that this is posting some crazy pre-sales numbers.
View in the UK announced that the pre-sales for Wicked for Good are rivaling 2021 Spider-Man No Way Home. So already breaking records there.
And we heard from our friends at Marcus as well, looking at things stateside, that pre-sales for Wicked for Good at this point are 3 times what they were for the first Wicked. So, I mean, wow. I assume that just due to the nature of Wicked for Good being a sequel, the first one is going to have more walk-up traffic than this one will, but still.
It's doing so well. It's doing so incredibly well. All the metrics that we're tracking are pointing up. And that's why I have to bring in this is more or less the ceiling component of this conversation, because if this performs to where some of these metrics are indicating, we're talking about an opening weekend well beyond 135 million domestic. We're talking about something between 180 and 210. That's the reality. That's the high end of where this could go in terms of ranges.
I mean, I heard like Deadpool and Wolverine invoked as a comparison point for how well this was doing early on. Now, obviously, that would be magnificent if it happens. 211, knock on wood. But it's looking. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it this Friday. I'm going for Dolby because I figure it's a musical. I got to do the sound, do the whole spectacle of it.
There's a lot of people that are rushing to buy tickets. In terms of expectations, again, it's really hard for me to walk in anywhere after hearing from our forecasting panel, which are giving all the members, and a huge thank you to them, have been giving us really nuanced numbers and explanations on where this could go. And again, I hate to give a range this high. We're going to publish a number that's going to be much tighter. I assure you, you can find that story over on our website, boxofficepro.com. But here, where we have the opportunity to delve into things, crunch those numbers, that baseline figure that we're seeing is 135. That's a $20 million plus improvement over last year's part 1. And the high range of like, hey, it's indicating it could go there is between 180 and 210. 180 being more or less where Black Panther Wakanda Forever opened to a couple of Novembers ago. And then 210 being more or less the opening weekend that Deadpool and Wolverine, that Rebecca, you mentioned a second ago, that's already being invoked as a potential comp here. Now, that's not an expectation. 180 to 210 isn't an expectation, but that's more of a benchmark if this turns out to be true. I say that because the box office here domestically hasn't delivered a title anywhere near those numbers. The top opening weekend of the year, as we're looking at everything coming in, we still have to go back to CinemaCon when a Minecraft movie crushed all expectations and opened to $162 million. That's still the high watermark. So to give you guys the best dependable range in the middle of the baseline that we're hearing, of the high end that we're hearing, I think this movie is going to come in between 145 and 175 in terms of domestic opening weekend. 145 being more or less that Lilo and Stitch opening weekend number. That's the number 2 opening weekend of the year. So we've seen a movie perform along those lines. And on the higher end, I think it could outrun something like a Minecraft movie and get to the 170 range. So putting a pin in this, opening weekend expectations officially here on Box Office Pro, we're expecting between $145 to $175 million on the opening weekend for Wicked for Good. With a caveat that if it comes in at 135, it's still a great performance within everybody's win column. And get ready for this to really overperform and potentially surpass 200 million opening. Now, we have to bring up all these things because, Rebecca, as you pointed out a second ago, Thanksgiving is around the corner. I'm not watching this on opening weekend. This is not an opening weekend movie for me. And the same way you're picking a Dolby auditorium, I think a lot of people are going to look at the PLF availability
Yep.
and wait it out. They're going to wait it out because there's not going to be a real PLF rival, maybe a little bit from Zootopia 2 on Thanksgiving weekend. But I think a lot of folks are going to say, you know what? This is my special trip out to the movies this year. Maybe this and Avatar. And I'm going to wait until week 2, week 3 to see it with the best possible sound, the best possible image at a higher ticket price. That's going to happen to me.
It's not like you don't know what I mean. It's Chad, as you were saying, Act 2 of the second half of Wicked for Good is basically The Wizard of Oz. It's not like anybody's worried about getting spoiled.
Well, talking about being spoiled, Chad, you wrote a wonderful, in-depth, behind-the-scenes story in our latest print issue, available now to subscribers, where you talked to so many people involved in this film. I know you're a huge fan of the musical. What are your expectations, just as a fan, as a moviegoer, coming into this movie?
I think the thing that really excites me is the musical Act 1 is like 90 minutes, right? Act 2 is like 45 minutes, an hour. This film's 2 hours and 17 minutes. So there's a lot of content that I don't think is in the musical that's going to be maybe elaborated on, things from the book that we'll be able to, and then there's 2 new songs. So that's exciting.
Coleman Domingo was announced as the voice of the Cowardly Lion, which the Cowardly Lion doesn't have a voice in the musical, right? Like he's not an actual character.
Yeah, and I think those lines are going to be pretty minimal, but I mean, to be able to say we've got Coleman Domingo as the Cowardly Lion right there is... But yeah, I think in talking to everyone, I think the thing that I'm most excited to see, Alice Brooks, the cinematographer, talked about this entire sequence for Glinda's new song, The Girl in the Bubble, and how they achieved that technically and everything that went into that, saying that was the most collaborative moment of her career. So I'm really excited to see that sequence in particular.
I'm really excited to see what various cinemas across the country come up with to celebrate the event. Because, I mean, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of, people dressing up in pink like they did for Barbie and in green. It feels like an event. It is one that admittedly I could not convince Eric to go with me. He's he does not care.
If I see this without my wife, I'm not sleeping in this house. Like if I went to that all media and told my wife, hey, it's great, wait 3 weeks and we'll go see it on a Sunday afternoon, I'm sleeping on the couch for those 3 weeks, man. No, I'm waiting to see this with my wife in a premium auditorium, probably in a dine-in theater. I cannot wait to see this either. And I wasn't familiar with the source material. I knew what Wicked was. I'd heard popular before, but I wasn't really familiar with any of the songs or the musical itself. Watching it on the big screen for the first time at the movie tavern in Flowertown in the outskirts of Philly last year, which is such a special experience that I can't wait to do it again. And more so, I think, as part of this marketing ramp up and build up that Rebecca is saying, it's a cultural moment more than it is a movie at this point. And it is super hard to get there for anything, for an album release, for a sporting event.
It's like Barbie. It's like we have been waiting for this, or on the Gen Z side, something like, Five Nights at Freddy's from a few years back. It's something that people have been really waiting for a long time. So that organic enthusiasm.
And it feels like part of the season. This really risky strategy of producing a big ticket musical in a time when musicals were not performing at the box office, and not only saying we're releasing it next to Thanksgiving, but we're actually cutting it into 2 movies and releasing them both a year apart. We've seen that fail with other big projects before, very recently with Kevin Costner.
Cats, it's Universal too. I mean, not
that on a musical level, absolutely.
And that was a big holiday release.
We've seen this not work out that well. Even something like Les Mis, which Tom Hooper, the less said the better, but that was a big musical released over the holidays. It did well at the box office, fine, but was it the sort of performance that you said, would this work as a 2-parter released a year apart? No, I don't think it would have. They took that chance with this property. And at this point, going to see Wicked around Thanksgiving feels like part of a holiday tradition. I know this just happened last year, but what I think this is going to get to is this might be a good rep title for Thanksgiving in future years, because you get that association of it's close to the holidays, it's Thanksgiving, it's family, you get off work for a couple of days. It feels like a little mini vacation. Going to see this movie feels like a reward after what's been a monstrous couple of months here in the US economy, in the US society, just as a living person, it's been really tough for people out there. And one of the factors that we were trying to wrestle with to come up with this opening weekend range is, what are the economic hardships that we're seeing across the board, not only at the box office, but in culture, in society here in the US? How is that going to impact the box office performance of a tentpole? The best data that we can come up with is that, yes, these economic hardships are going to maybe put a damper on hotel reservations for Thanksgiving, right? Maybe you do an Airbnb, or maybe you stay with relatives. Maybe you don't get the hotel.
Maybe you don't fly to a different state, or, those big ticket expenses versus something that's more like approachable. Like, I mean, getting some little escapist entertainment by going to the movies.
A movie ticket, yes, it's expensive compared to what it used to be. I still don't think it's an expensive thing to do. I think a movie ticket is still very affordable as a premium entertainment destination option compared to what other entertainment destination options cost. I still think it's a more affordable range of all those things. Could it be more affordable? Yes, it always could be. We can get into that conversation some other time. But what I think the sacrifices were going to be economically for families this year in this context are, maybe let's not go to the trip to New York City to see the tree lighting. Maybe you don't go see the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, or you go to a different, let's say maybe a beach trip or a holiday trip somewhere. I think that's going to be the impact.
Yeah, but we don't want to get depressed over the holidays. We don't want, Thanksgiving to come around and it's all, so let's maybe, treat ourselves to a movie.
What's the $20 alternative? I think the $200 option is probably off the table for a lot of families this Thanksgiving, unfortunately. But the $20 option is still there. And I don't think that the $20 option of going to the movies is going to disappear. If anything, it's going to be more attractive, like you say, Rebecca, especially if you're making sacrifices here and there. This is still a dependable, good time you're going to enjoy out of the house. And it's not out of the range of reality for a lot of families to go and enjoy.
I'm scrolling through the calendar, kind of seeing where we are this time next year. Obviously, politically, economically, who knows? But in terms of the box office slate, I mean, it feels like the equivalent to Wicked next year is Greta Gerwig's Narnia, which might not even play in most of the screens or all of the non-IMAX screens in America. So it feels like our Narnia really has the opportunity to kind of step in and capture that enthusiasm.
How often do you hear that line of folks saying, I had to drive X number of miles to find an IMAX screen?
Not if Netflix just kind of keeps it greedy and keeps it all to themselves.
The IMAX exclusive strategy from Netflix is not going to create a cultural moment for Narnia. It will not.
Absolutely, yeah. This movie, I feel like it absolutely could do that, and it's not gonna.
No,
it's so disappointing.
That's a decision of, I say it all the time. If you take the check, you take the consequences. If you accept the bag full of cash they give you, you accept the realities of working with a company like Netflix. You have to. I'm sorry. And now Greta Gerwig can see how a studio that's theatrical first treated one of her films, and how Netflix treated one of her films. Hopefully that influences future decisions. I don't know. But you're seeing a big exodus of talent away from Netflix for that reason. And I wonder, coming into next year, do you put a Wicked double feature back in theaters on Dolby, on D-Box, on Luma, right? Do you go for a PLF that's not Netflix combo with Universal, knowing that the only other PLF title in circulation next year, unless I'm mistaken, I believe is going to be a Disney original in Hexed, which you never know how those turn out in Thanksgiving time. So not only is this a great opportunity for Universal to have dominated Thanksgiving 2024, dominate Thanksgiving 2025, windows open for Thanksgiving 2026 for a double feature, and have that holiday association, that holiday feeling of taking a 2-hour vacation with these movies. That's how well the marketing team has pulled this off. And at the end of the day, I said it in last week's episode, nobody buys a ticket to something called Predator Badlands unless you hear it's good. We don't see tracking like this for Wicked for Good if the first one didn't exceed audience expectations. And that's exactly what it did.
And John M. Chu has already talked about watching them back to back as a different experience. And he said he would love to see like a 5-hour version of this film.
And going beyond this just being an alternative to that PLF strategy in 2026 of like, hey, we need a PLF alternative to Narnia in our theaters. I think Universal might even have a bigger hit in its hands if instead of providing a PLF double feature re-release, if it just goes to the opposite end and says, hey, $5 a piece, come see Wicked again in theaters.
Thanksgiving Friday, you're off work.
Thanksgiving Friday.
It's a 3 p.m.
$5 to see this quote unquote archival title back in theaters in 2026. If you want to pay the $30 and drive 30 miles to go watch Narnia on IMAX, do it. If you want $5 to see a great blockbuster hit that you've enjoyed the last 2 years, here's your alternative. They can go either way. Go PLF, go discount, but there's an event here waiting for you if you can work with exhibition.
And Wicked this year being re-released already in anticipation for Good. I have to give Harkins a shout out because I went to see that. I could have seen it at home, but I wanted to see it on the big screen before For Good. So we're already seeing that a little bit this year.
It was a great idea. I think if it didn't crack the top 10, it almost did. I forget if it was on position 10 or 11, but you're absolutely right, Chad. It was a really smart strategy of Universal sneaking it out last weekend in theaters. And yeah, if they go big with a re-release, double feature, discount, or just a PLF event next year, I think exhibition is going to be big time behind that project. And I think audiences will too. And now let's move on to our feature segment here with Rebecca Pahle's interview of Greg Heckmann from Maya, talking about the circuit's new initiative to help young cinema professionals in their careers that is coming up after this commercial break.
Irwin Seating has been building and installing seating solutions in schools, stadiums, concert halls, and cinemas for 119 years. So it's safe to assume they've seen a thing or two. And safer still to assume that Irwin not only has the products you need, they have the experience, knowledge, and know-how to solve whatever problem you have that needs solving, regardless of the size of your cinema or your problem. To learn more about what Irwin has learned about cinema in the last 119 years, visit irwinseating.com.
Greg, I know that Maya Cinemas is a chain that since its inception has been very focused on community involvement, on community engagement. Given that, could you give me a little bit of background about this community fund and your role in that?
There was always the Maya Education Fund that set up scholarships for students in the communities. And that was carried through 2010s, and 2019, Francisco Schlotterbeck came in as our COO and then moved to CEO. And with that kind of a new team that included myself and Heidi Garcia, who were on board at the time when he came in. And we ended up kind of becoming the principals on the My Education Fund. As soon as we started to kind of figure out where we were with that, the pandemic hit. And that gave us since everything was put on hold, it gave us some time to talk about it. And we decided that while we still wanted to look at education, we wanted to broaden the scope of the education fund. So we renamed it the Maya Community Foundation. And along with education, we also wanted to focus on youth programs and healthcare. So that's kind of the scope of where we're still at today. And the latest program that we've developed is the Young Cinema Professionals Workshop that we had a few weeks ago. And along with that, we still have some education and scholarship focus. Our other big program right now is the food drive that we put out on the holidays. We usually run it from Thanksgiving till Christmas. And what we ask for is a $10 donation. And in return, we give the person who donates 2 movie passes to come back in January or February and see a movie. So been very successful. We've been able to raise a lot of money, and the money goes directly to the food banks in our communities. And we really try to deliver that check by December 31st, which helps replenish pantries after the holidays. So it's gone really well. And we will continue that this year.
You have the food bank and the educational funds that serve more the communities in which Maya Cinemas individually operates. What was the impetus behind this new program of investment, not in the cinema community, but in the industry community?
The seed of it came from a few places. I've been in this industry forever. Started working in a movie theater when I was a teenager, and I started working summers at National Amusements in the Northeast, and then I eventually started working full time and went from one position to another, from an artist to an assistant art director, creator, all down the line. And there's so many opportunities where I was getting either promoted into a situation or asked to do stuff that were new to me. It was a whole new learning curve. And I was just kind of thrown into it, figuring stuff out on the fly. And part of this new program was me thinking, like, if someone just sat me down and said, this is what the industry looks like this is how film works. This is how operations work. This is how concession works. And these are all the partners that are involved in it. Because it's, as we know from experience, it's a huge ecosystem of a lot of different companies doing a lot of different things. So that was really part of it. And then, obviously, I think we that are in the industry are very invested in it. There's a lot of lifers doing it.
Lifers,
and
it's my father, my grandfather.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's one big family, right? And there's a lot of legacy. So we're all very invested. And I think we're all very invested in the future. We talk about the challenges, and we've been talking about the challenges, especially since 2000. And we want to leave this industry in capable hands. So that's part of it too. It's like, let's start to groom people. Let's start to take people who have interest, they're young, and kind of show them the whole world and let them know the scope of what they could get involved with. And hopefully that triggers a spark or two so that they, choose a path that takes them into a role that really contributes. And I think this program is certainly based on that, and I think we all would agree it's something we want to see. We want to help ignite young people who have a little interest and say, you know what, this is the place to go.
It got me thinking about just the arc of the industry, reading about this initiative, the young cinema professionals. Like, it used to be that you would start working at the cinema when you were a teenager. You would kind of have that arc. It was a beloved and envied summer job. Mm-hmm. For young people today, I mean, for maybe a good chunk of their childhoods, like, the industry was kind of shut down because of a pandemic, or there wasn't really a slate because of the strikes, and there wasn't so much hiring. I mean, I feel like there's been a lot of chaos in this industry, and a lot of amazing high points as well. And we're definitely looking forward to some more this holiday season. But maybe just because of the state of the world, just so many young people aren't getting those opportunities that maybe they used to in decades prior. Like, it's great to be more proactive in cultivating interest.
Yeah. Yeah, and listen, face it, you're right. Like that seed of working in a movie theater, that kind of initiates it, right? And why did we want to work in a movie theater? Because we want to see movies for free, because we love movies, and because it's a social thing. We want to, get popcorn for our friends and bring our friends in to, get discounted tickets, or yeah, and be that person, right? Like, hey, I saved up. Let's all go to the movies. Mm-hmm. But, today's kids have different options, too. They can see there's a lot of content. Movie theaters is just one option. So maybe that kind of need and desire isn't as strong as it used to be. But I do think we're seeing that young people are really loving to come to the theater and really looking for something that's more of an event than sitting in their home. And I mean, everyone gets sick of being home. So you've got to get out. And And I think young people are more receptive. I think we just need to look at the programming, and we're seeing some things that we should really be tuned into. And I think we are, like the emergence of anime and the strength of some of these titles that come out. And these draw very young audiences. And they certainly wouldn't have done those numbers years ago, but now they are. And I think we're taking notice. Certainly, when K-pop Demon Hunters dropped, and it was a Netflix title, and it did amazing for 2 days in theater. And, now they're out with Frankenstein, and we're all hoping like maybe Netflix is kind of
coming around,
thinking of some new strategies, because making millions at the box office for any company, it doesn't matter. Like, that's a good thing. People, every company wants to make money. Maybe they're going to come out with kind of an overall approach to this.
I was just earlier today. I was just writing up our forecasting on Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I mean, that's another one where you look at the first film, and it was an event. It was appointment viewing for people who'd grown up with the video games to come see it. And you think of like young people working at some of those cinemas who really got into the spirit of it, who really, like you say, they treat it more like an event and a communal experience rather than simply like pressing play on something on their TV.
Absolutely.
It's great to take that enthusiasm and encourage your young employees to be involved. And then, as you say, once maybe they're like, hey, there's a little bit that's I'm curious about, this is interesting beyond just this specific film, they have the opportunity to see if they like it by, in this case, you sent 2 young professionals to the Cinema United Fall Summit in October. What was like the application process like? Were people like recommended by their GMs or?
This was our pilot year. We just launched this program. So the way the process worked is that we sent an application to everyone every Maya employee. We exempted GMs and house managers, but everyone else could apply for this. And doing it that way was because, again, this was a pilot. We wanted to get people that we knew were interested. And there was having them be current Maya employees helped ease some of the programming elements because of the time schedule we were on. So that's how we went forward. We ended up getting 2 unbelievable candidates that were fantastic. And their GM, I interviewed both GMs about the candidates. So that was really important. Obviously, if we're going to bring somebody to the Fall Summit and then have them meet a whole panel of industry professionals, I needed to know that I was going to get 2 people that were very invested in doing this. They were very professional people, and they were going to represent themselves in the company really well. And I couldn't have asked for anything better.
It's because this is an industry where people are so passionate about it. I mean, it's such an interesting industry that people don't really know a lot about. So if you plop down 2 interested, like responsible, professional young folk at Fall Summit and ask, hey, could you explain this part of the industry? Man, they'd probably still be there if.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that on the side of people who are already in the industry is a really welcome situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And they were blown away. And they flew in on Wednesday morning of the summit, and we made it to this. We got to the Hilton in time for the second panel. So we sat through the entire day, and then they went to the Pioneer dinner that night. So they were thrown right into it, and it was a fantastic way to do it. And we had some great screenings on Thursday. And then we had the actual workshop on Friday and Saturday. And it was overload. I'm actually doing a recap interview with the 2 candidates at 2 p.m. today. I wanted to give them a few weeks to let everything sink in. And today I'll get their feedback and see what really interested them the most. And there'll be a process following up between me and the candidates over the year until next year's workshop, where I will communicate with them and try to facilitate anybody they want to reach back out to and get more information and, try to give them what they need to stay on the path. And I'm pretty excited to see where it takes these two.
Those opportunities for mentorship, they're so important, but they can also be difficult to come by. You need a group like the Maya Community Foundation or like Unique or Will Rogers to kind of facilitate things sometimes.
Yeah.
What now are you thinking? Are you going to expand the program, kind of keep it kind of to a smaller scope for a little bit, or?
I think it will be bigger next year. I think this was very controlled, and the initial thought was to open this to the entire community, having a process that lets anyone in the community who has interest in the cinema industry and film that would be able to apply. So that would certainly be a goal for next year, is to have it broader and be able to look at a bigger talent pool. But I think some of the partners that were involved were really excited. They were beyond happy to do it. And the feedback I received from these partners was just like, okay, this is great. How do we blow this out for next year? So I've had some conversations. I have more lined up. And yeah, we'll see where we can take it. I think it's, obviously you can only grow something like this so big, but I think certainly to get half a dozen people into the program next year, I think would be a conservative and certainly doable goal. So I think that's kind of my thinking right now.
I really hope that more chains kind of lean into what you guys are doing here, because it's not something that Maya did on your own. You had like financial contributions from Fandango, from NATO, California, Nevada, comprehensive film booking.
Much appreciated.
Just have to reach out, and everyone's willing to, I think, help out. It's not solely a lift on behalf of one team.
No, I agree. I think it's a fairly simple concept. It just, there's a lot of planning and to figure it out and to actually make it happen. So, but I think you're right. I think this is kind of like, it's just us as an industry investing in our future and being able to hand things off to really capable people. And I mean, it's no secret, because we both know we've been in this, and there's a lot of older people who are, way beyond retirement age, but they're, it's the kind of industry where you're in it for life, right? It's just like,
there
really
Why
isn't.
would you want to leave? But it does make it difficult as a chain that has like in your DNA supporting underserved communities, there are also underserved communities of people who may want to get into this industry. And it's tough.
Yeah. It's tough all around, right? It's like, it doesn't matter what industry. Right now, things are hard. I know so many young people that are trying to get a job, and it's just thousands of applications, hearing nothing, months and months go by. And it seems to be becoming more of the norm, and which is unfortunate. So I think whether it's cinema or anybody else, we all have to look at like, how do we reinvest? How do we remove these barriers and support the younger generations that are coming into our professions? And if we don't do that, I think we're going to lose a lot. We're going to lose a lot of legacy information, and that's not really a great thing, because we all listen. Movies are about stories. Stories are how people communicate, like complex thoughts and share, and stories get carried on. And if we kind of strip that away too much, I think it's not a great thing.
Yeah, there's such great stories in this industry. Just hearing people talk about like old parties at CinemaCon back when it was Show West. Like, you hear some crazy stuff, but like they don't teach film exhibition in film school.
No.
If you think you might be interested in it, working in a movie theater is pretty much how you're going to figure that out.
Yeah, and look, this is another struggle that we're dealing with in exhibition. There's a lot of content being made, and there's a lot of extremely talented, creative people out there making films. The problem is they know how to use the equipment and make the film, but then when it comes to the next step of putting it on a big screen in a movie theater, which they mostly want to do, they have no idea. They have no idea. They don't know about distribution. They don't know about film marketing. They don't know any of this stuff. And all of us working for exhibitors know this drill. It's like, this is great.
This has been people. Even in our internship program, we have people who are like, why don't they just do this? Yeah. Why don't they just put this segment of film into theaters like this? I'm like, that is a brilliant idea. And it has been
and
done
we
before.
Do it.
It's been tried in different ways. Yeah. Like all of this stuff there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, people were like, the Windows conversation dates back to like home video, Purple Rain.
Yeah. The window thing, I think, is like, I mean, it's obviously such an important point, but it's also a moving target. Like, we have to realize we are part of the whole economical system with the studios, with the content creators, and their business has changed. So we can try to force windows as much as possible. But look, going back to Netflix, if Netflix is going to give us Frankenstein for 2 weeks, we're going to take it because we're going to make some money, and it's a great film, and
it's so beautiful. The costumes are so great. Like it looks it's so good.
So we have to, right? We have to, like, we can keep like pounding our fists and saying like we want a 45-day window for everything. You know what? Like we can't. And when a movie opens that's supposed to do 30 million and it only does 10, how are we going to look at that studio and say, you got to stick to the 45-day window? Like, this is going to be out in 2 weeks.
Or when something like, going back to Five Nights at Freddy's, it was day and date, it still overperformed. There are opportunities here to encourage and to harness the enthusiasm from some of these youth audiences. You definitely need both sides. You need that institutional knowledge, but you also need that kind of enthusiastic, heedless, like I'm going to go in and I'm going to change the world for the better. So it's great to see Maya kind of bringing those two sides of the equation together. Mm-hmm. To invest in the future of the industry. Yeah,
I'm excited.
And a big thank you to Rebecca Pahle on her interview with Maya Cinema's Greg Heckmann. Earlier, you heard from myself, Daniel Loria, and my colleague, Chad Kennerk, here on the Box Office Podcast. If you are a subscriber of Box Office Magazine, do not miss Chad Kennerk's wonderful feature story on the making of Wicked for Good. It is in every print edition that we just shipped out a couple weeks back, and you can also find those on our website, boxofficepro.com. Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you again next week.